Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mike's Garage. Listen, I went through and I made a little list of things that you should check on a calendar basis just to make sure your car is doing okay. Now, most of what I'm going to go over today is about the car. I have another list I'm putting together about your home and what you should do there. Okay, the first thing is the long term things are the oil changes and the tire rotation. If you get your oil changed at one of the service areas, they usually will rotate the tires for you at the same time and won't charge anything. That's a pretty good deal. So if you can get hooked up with a good service center that will change the oil and rotate the tires, I recommend that you do that. Okay. Now I usually get my oil changed every 3 to 5,000 miles. I don't try to do it exactly at 3,000, and I always get the tires rotated at the same time. So that depends on your driving and how hard you drive and how far you drive and how long it takes you to go 3 to 5,000. It's probably 2 or 3 times a year that you really do need to get the oil changed. So keep that in mind. Make sure they put a sticker on the windshield, or you have a little notebook that you keep in the glove box as to when's the next mileage you should look for to change the oil. It's important to get that done on a regular basis. Okay. Let's look under the hood now. About the first of the month is what I set my internal calendar for. It's the first of the month, time to get under the hood of the car. Now, there's a couple different filters up there. Some of the cars have a filter for the air that goes into the passenger compartment. Those need to be changed every 1 to 2 years. Depends on where you're driving. If you live in a dusty area, or you live in a high allergy area with a lot of pollen and things like that, you want to get those filters out and get them cleaned. Same thing with the air filter for the engine. Now, that's also under the hood. You need to check that every 1 to 2 years. As soon as it starts to look like it's getting dirty, you need to change it out. It helps your gas mileage, helps the engine performance, and you don't want all that stuff building up on the air filter. It's time to get that out of there and just get it thrown away. Pretty easy. You can do it yourself. Some of those just has a couple clips. You can usually get them at the auto parts store. Some of the big box stores sell auto parts too. You can get it there, or just have it done when you have the oil changed. Just make a note of that you want to get that done about every 2 years to get the filters changed in the car. Also under the hood, we want to check the oil. Now this is the first of the month. I get my little calendar out and then I say, okay, it's the first of the month. Let's go check under the hood. I want to check the oil level. You pull the dipstick. I like to do it when the engine's cold, first thing in the morning before I drove the car anywhere. You pull the dipstick. You really don't have to wipe it off and put it back in. You can just pull it out, look at it, make sure there's oil in the fill area. They do give you a range in there. This is full, this is low, but if it's anywhere in that X'd off area on the stick, it's good. It's good to go. Don't let it get below that. You have to add oil when it gets too low. Okay, it's important to keep the right oil level in there. If you're losing oil before you get oil changes, you do need to look and see what's wrong. If you're leaking something or you're burning oil or something like that, if your engine using a lot of oil, you really need to be careful about keeping that full. Okay. Next, you have to check the battery connections. Make sure they're not corroded. If they are getting corroded, you have to clean them. Get somebody to clean them for you. Put some protective coating on it. They have a lot of different products you can spray on it or smear on it to keep the battery acid from coming back. It ruins the connections. It ruins the mounting brackets. So you want to check the battery to make sure that's not getting overly corroded. Now, you do that, like I say, once a month. Then you can check the coolant level to make sure you have enough coolant level. If it's the fall, you're getting into the winter, you want to make sure you have the right kind of coolant in there, that it's protected to below a certain temperature if you have freezing temperatures in your area. If not, the coolant really needs to be added because it keeps the water from boiling at a certain temperature. It makes the engine run cooler. It takes the heat away from the engine into the radiator and evaporates the heat faster if you're using the right amount of coolant. So it's just not for cold weather. You have to use coolant all year round. So just make sure you have plenty of coolant. On the fill box for the coolant, there's a high level and a low level. If the car is cold, you haven't driven it for a while, then the level should be low and that's perfectly normal. So just make sure you have plenty in there. The radiator will draw the coolant back in if it needs it, and if it gets too hot, it does push some of the coolant out because it has expanded, but it's not squirting it onto the ground like back in the day. That's what they used to do. You just lost it. Okay, then under the hood, you also have the windshield washer fluid. You never know when you're going to need that. There's a couple different tips I put out. If that doesn't work, you should have some way of getting windshield washer fluid on the windshield and let the wipers clean the windshield. So make sure you have plenty of fluid. Make sure that's topped off. And I also look for leaks or smells or anything else that's going on under there. If you get buildup of dirt, if you get leaves, especially in this time of year, the fall, you get leaves and sticks and twigs and different things under there. And you're also looking for different leaks. Now, the guys I grew up with or taught me how to be a mechanic back in the day in the early 60s, they would touch something and smell it. And they could tell just by smelling it what it was, whether it was brake fluid, windshield washer fluid, antifreeze, oil, gear oil, grease. They could tell you just by the smell of it what it was, okay? A lot of people don't really do that anymore. You have to look to find the leak, where it's coming from, wipe it off, start the car. Make sure you're not losing any important fluid that's in the car. It's going to cause you a problem if you do let it run low. Okay, so anything under the hood that looks out of the ordinary, anything that's loose, anything that's rattling, anything that's rubbing up against each other is going to wear a hole in it and maybe cause a problem for you out in the road when you're away from home. You got to catch that before it happens, okay? Preventive maintenance is what we're talking about here, is taking care of a problem before it happens and puts you out of commission. The other thing I like to do is check the tires. You don't go around kicking the tires. There's a couple different things you do. You want to make sure you got good tread on the tires. Make sure they're not wearing unevenly. If the inside's wearing more than the outside, if the middle of the tire is wearing more than the outside edges of the tire, that means you have too much air in the tire. The tire pressure is too high. If the outside edges are wearing out and the middle isn't, and the outside edges are wearing evenly, but they're wearing out faster than the middle, then you don't have enough tire pressure. So there should be a sticker inside inside the driver's side of the door that tells you and recommends what the tire pressure should be for the recommended tire sizes. Now, you're kind of on your own if you change the size of the tires. You see some guys going around with trucks with bigger tires on it, or the guys replace the standard rims with some of those big rims that have real thin tires. Different tire pressure for that. Check to see what they recommend for that, and that's what you have to maintain to keep that proper tire pressure. It helps with the traction and everything too. If you're in an area where it snows or gets cold and icy, make sure you have the tires with the best tread on the drive wheels. If you have rear wheel drive, those tires should be on the back. If you have front wheel drive, those tires with good tread should be in the front. Okay, that helps you with the traction and the steering. If you have tires that are really low on tread, you really do need to get those replaced, because any kind of a wet road in the areas where you have the leaves fall off the trees, wet leaves, it's almost as bad as ice. You just slide right off the road. You can't get any traction, especially if you have tires that are worn down lower than they should be and you're trying to stretch a few more miles out of them. Wet leaves are just treacherous this time of year. So be careful when you do those. Make sure you got the right tire pressure there. Some of the newer cars have the display in the speedometer area where it tells you what the pressure is on each tire. Make sure they're where they should be. 1 or 2 pounds difference here or there, that's okay. But if you get 5-8 pounds difference between the back tires or the left side or the right side, or one tire is really low, make sure you get that tire pumped up. If it happens again within the next 30 days, you got to get that tire looked at. It must have like a slow leak or something, because if it has a nail in it, it'll have a slow leak. If the nail comes out, now it's a fast leak, you're going to have a flat. And you don't want to get a flat on the road. Like I said, it's preventive maintenance. Get it taken care of before you have a problem. Okay, it's always better to do that. Usually it saves you a lot of money too, because you don't want to get, AAA or towing involved or some kind of road service involved to come out and take care of that for you. Next thing you want to see if the tires are damaged. Did you rub up against a curb? Is there slashes in the side of the tire where you damaged it by rubbing up against a piece of metal, or you hit something in the road? Always make sure you didn't damage the tire, especially if you do run something over in the road, even an animal. I had a tire go flat on me. I ran over a raccoon, and one of the fangs from the raccoon actually punctured the tire. 30, 40 miles later, I had a flat. Didn't realize that I had damaged the tire until it was too late. Now I had to, take care of it, get the tire changed. So be careful with that. Next thing you want to do is, there's two things. Can the people see you, and can you see the other people that are driving? Really important. Okay, we're talking about the lights. Okay, let's look at the lights. Are your running lights working? Do all your marker lights work when you turn it on? Sometimes you got to get somebody to help you with this. Turn the lights on, walk around, make sure all the marker lights are lit. Turn the headlights on, make sure the headlights work. High beam, low beam. Get somebody to step on the brake pedal. Now you should have all those brake lights in the back. You should have had the left, the right, and the one in the center should light up when you hit the brakes. Now the one in the center is only supposed to come on when you hit the brakes. So make sure that works, because that will let the people behind you know what you're doing, what you plan on doing. Same thing with the turn signals. Turn the left turn signal on, make sure it's blinking front and back. Sometimes they have it on the side view mirror, that there's a light on there that will also blink. Same thing on the right hand side. Check the left and the right turn signal, make sure all the lights are blinking that are supposed to be blinking for that turn signal. Next to the reverse lights, make sure you put it in reverse, that the lights come on in the back, let people know you're going to back up. You should have a light on each side. Some of the newer cars have a backup camera. Does that camera working? And clean off the lens for the camera too. That's right around where the license plate should be. It's just a little clear lens. You can wipe it off with a tissue. So I just use my finger and just wipe the smudge off of it. It doesn't get really that dirty, but it's very handy to have. I just love that rear view camera. I kind of wish my model had it on all the time. So if I wanted to see what's going on behind me while I'm driving forward, instead of looking in the rear view mirror, I can get a better view from that, especially if you have more luggage than you really should have is blocking the rear view mirror. Inside, you can turn on that rear view camera and just watch what's happening behind you at the same time. Okay, so once you get through all the lights, make sure you have them all checked out and it's all working properly. That's a good excuse for a policeman to pull you over and say, hey, your light's not working. And you really want to avoid that, and it's for safety reasons too. Now, let's talk about visibility. Can you see the other guy? Are your windows clean? Make sure you get your windows clean. Once a month, I get the old Windex out, spray it on a couple of paper towels, wipe the windows down inside and out. Car wash usually only does the outside of the windows. The inside gets really pretty yucky in there too, especially if you're a smoker or you do a lot of different things with smoking in the car. Wipe down the inside of the windows, make sure they're clear, make sure the outsides are clear. You also have to wipe down the mirrors. Now you have the two side view mirrors, and you have the rear view mirror up on where your windshield is up there. Make sure you wipe those down, get all the streaks out of them, make sure they're nice and clear and clean. So that's what I do once a month. First of every month, I get out there and I go through that little checklist in my mind, or you can write it down and just check those things. That's all preventive maintenance kind of things. Will help you be safe, drive safe. You can be a good defensive driver because you can see the other guy and they can see you. So I hope all that's helpful. Keep your car in good condition. It won't let you down. They're an important part of day-to-day life. So you want to make sure you can trust it and depend on it. Hope they were helpful tips. I'd love to hear the comments. Please subscribe. I could always use more subscribers. I like to hear from everybody. I try to get back to everybody that writes to me. I like to comment back to them. Thank you for your comment. And thanks for watching Mike's Garage. Be safe out there. sanitize.